Imagine for a moment that every news article you read, maybe every social media post you scroll past, even videos friends share, what if they could be subtly, meticulously manipulated?
By like a hostile foreign power.
Exactly. And look, this isn't some dystopian fantasy. It's the reality of what we're calling algorithmic narrative warfare.
Yeah.
It's this hidden battle being waged right in, well, your digital backyard. It's complex, it's global, and it's impacting societies, democracies right now as we speak.
Yeah.
So our mission today is really to unpack the intricate architecture behind it all, look at real-world applications, and importantly, the policy implications of this pervasive threat.
And we've got some really compelling sources to guide us on this deep dive. Our
Yeah.
main one is the third EE's report on foreign information manipulation and interference threats. It just came out, March 2025.
From the European External Action Service, right.
Yeah, and it really pulls back the curtain on how our global information space has, well, it's transformed into a geopolitical battleground. It's quite stark. It reveals that last year alone, over 80 countries, and get this, more than 200 organizations were targeted by these kinds of operations. It just underscores the sheer scale of the challenge.
Wow, 80 countries.
Mhm. And we'll also be drawing some really crucial insights from a thought-provoking paper on strategic narratives by Lieutenant Colonel Nick Blass. That helps us understand the sort of psychological underpinnings,
Okay.
And also a forward-looking report from Number Analytics on where information warfare might be heading next.
Okay, so what does this all actually mean for you, our listener, as you're scrolling through your feed today?
Yeah.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll not only understand what foreign information manipulation and interference, FIMI, what that actually is,
Right.
but also how hostile actors aren't just like spreading random fake stories, they're actively weaponizing information itself.
Exactly. It's systematic.
You'll learn how they exploit the very algorithms that govern our digital lives, how they meticulously craft these compelling narratives to achieve their strategic goals.
And we'll expose the tactics, the techniques they use. We'll illustrate them with some pretty striking real-world examples from places like Moldova across Africa.
And help you grasp the crucial implications for policymakers, right? Because someone has to deal with this.
Absolutely. Our goal, really, is to give you that shortcut to being well-informed, provide those surprising facts, those aha moments, hopefully,
Yeah.
to help you navigate this increasingly manipulated information landscape.
Okay, so let's unpack this. To begin, let's try and define this digital battlefield. The EAS report introduces us to FIMI, foreign information manipulation and interference.
Mm-hmm.
And what immediately jumped out at me is this. FIMI isn't always illegal.
Right. That's a key point. The report defines it as like a pattern of behavior that, while mostly non-illegal, legally speaking, is intentionally and coordinately manipulative.
So it's designed specifically to threaten values, procedures, political processes.
Exactly. It's not just about, isolated bits of fake news. This is seen as a fundamental, organized part of modern military operations now.
That's a critical distinction to grasp, isn't it? That it's part of military ops.
It is. The report explicitly says FIMI is an integral component used by foreign states to lay the crucial groundwork for actual kinetic action on the ground.
So shaping the narrative before anything physical happens.
Precisely. Russia's war against Ukraine is presented as a prime and quite sobering example of this. You see the narratives being deployed way before troops move, shaping perceptions, softening targets, undermining cohesion internally.
So while it might not be illegal in the traditional sense, maybe it violates platform rules, but isn't a crime everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But it's unequivocally recognized as a major security threat. The aims are clear, and they're destructive.
Like what?
Well, destabilizing societies, damaging democratic institutions, driving wedges between allies, systematically undermining a country's global standing.
And you mentioned derailing countries aiming for things like EU membership.
Yes, that's a big one too. Trying to throw them off their path through drumming up internal dissent, making the path seem too costly or dangerous.
Okay. And this concept of FIMI connects directly to what Lieutenant Colonel Nick Blass calls strategic narratives, right?
It does. This concept really elevates FIMI beyond just individual pieces of misinformation. Strategic narratives are, well, they're more than just simple stories.
How so?
They're deliberately constructed storylines. They're designed to forge consensus, to influence audiences to understand complex events in a way that supports a very particular stance or agenda.
They sound incredibly powerful.
They are, because they tap into something really fundamental in us, Our innate desire to make sense of the world through coherent stories, finding patterns, finding meaning, especially in chaos.
And Blas breaks down how they're built.
Yes, he does.
Huh.
It's fascinating, almost like an architectural blueprint for persuasion. He breaks them down into three key components. First, you've got the plot.
Okay, the plot.
This is where the context gets established. Often it's done by explaining current events through, say, historical parallels that really resonate culturally with the target audience.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about how 9/11 in the U.S. was often compared to Pearl Harbor, a deadly surprise attack that profoundly changed the nation. That comparison immediately provides a familiar, often emotionally charged framework.
Even if the interpretation is, well, heavily constructed to serve a purpose.
Exactly. It gives a sense of maybe inevitability or historical precedent to what's happening now.
Right. And then the second component.
The subjects of the narrative. These feature protagonists, often familiar national heroes or archetypes, and antagonists who are clearly identified villains.
Okay, heroes and villains. Pretty standard storytelling.
Yes, but here's the interesting and maybe dangerous part. It can subtly blur the lines between the story and reality. As you get immersed in the narrative, the characters, their plight, their actions, they can start to feel more real, more immediate than maybe the dry factual details of the actual events.
So you might find yourself like identifying with one side and feeling real anger towards the other without even realizing you're being manipulated.
Precisely. It's a subtle but really powerful shift in perspective. Your emotions are essentially weaponized to align with the narrative's agenda.
Wow. Okay, and the third element.
The conclusion. This isn't just about tying up loose ends. It takes the story into the future, establishing some desired moral goal.
But not necessarily based on rational calculations.
Often not. It appeals directly to more primal emotions: fear, desire, hope. It can even call for retribution, for vindication. It's designed to inspire action through that deep emotional connection, rather than pure logic or objective assessment.
And Blas links this directly to military strategy.
He does. He emphasizes that military strategy is increasingly nested within a nation's strategic narratives. Look at Ukraine's President Zelensky. Many analyses suggest he's out-narrated Putin in the conflict, leveraging powerful stories of resistance, national identity, global solidarity.
So narratives aren't just like side notes in warfare.
Not at all. They're crucial. At all levels, they profoundly influence perceptions, attitudes, and ultimately actions within the information domain itself.
So if we pull all these pieces together, what does it look like? Is it like a chess game?
That's actually a really good analogy. Imagine a complex chess game, but your opponent isn't just moving pieces on the board.
Okay.
They're also whispering stories into the ears of the audience, your allies, maybe even your own players. They're subtly changing how everyone perceives the board, the game, your intentions.
Making pieces seem different than they are.
Exactly. Making neutral pieces seem threatening or vice versa. That's algorithmic narrative warfare in a nutshell. It's about deeply influencing the very framework through which people understand reality. Not just convincing them of one fact, but reshaping their entire worldview.
Okay, let's talk about the sheer volume of this. Because the scale you mentioned earlier, it sounds unprecedented.
It really is. It reveals a kind of frightening industrialization of these influence ops. The EPS report, it uncovers an astonishing amount of FIMI activity just in 2024.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
They investigated 505 distinct incidents. Those involve some 38,000 unique channels, think social media accounts, websites, etc., across 25 different online platforms.
Wow, 38,000 channels.
And those channels generated over 68,000 pieces of content designed specifically to manipulate.
That's just mind-boggling. It's not a single incident, it's a constant flood.
It is an overwhelming deluge happening every single day. It makes it almost impossible for a casual consumer to sort truth from manipulation, even on topics they think they understand well.
And the geographical reach. You said 90 countries.
90 countries targeted in that period. It shows no region is immune. Ukraine, tragically, was still the primary victim almost half of all incidents, 257 cases.
Tailored specifically to weaken resistance and Western support.
Yes, often pushing narratives of war fatigue, futility of aid, that sort of thing. But it wasn't just Ukraine.
Where else?
France was heavily targeted, 152 cases, often timed around the Paris Olympics or key legislative elections. Germany saw 73 cases, typically linked to domestic politics, farmers' protests trying to amplify divisions.
Right.
Moldova, 45 incidents, especially around their presidential elections and the critical EU accession referendum. The narratives there aim to destabilize its pro-European path.
And Africa, too.
Absolutely. Sub-Saharan Africa, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso were major targets. It's part of a broader geopolitical struggle for influence on the continent.
And it's not just countries being targeted, you said. Organizations, too.
That's a crucial distinction, yes. The report shows organizations were hit in 85% of incidents. That's 322 different organizations.
Like who?
Major international bodies, the EU, NATO, also the armed forces of Western countries, Germany, France, the U.S. It's a broad systemic attack on institutions designed to uphold stability.
And media outlets, even the ones fighting FIMI.
Yes, independent media, Le Parisien, BBC, France 24, Der Spiegel were targeted. And even the groups trying to expose FIMI, like Bellingcat and EU Disinfolab, it shows a deliberate effort to silence or discredit anyone who pulls back the curtain.
Wow. And individuals, too.
Over half the incidents targeted individuals, extending the campaigns into personal attacks.
Like politicians.
Yes. Numerous EU heads of state, government officials Ursula von der Leyen, Kaja Kallas, Joseph Borrell, Charles Michel were named. These ops often use personal smear campaigns.
Or contradictory narratives. What do you mean by that?
Like trying to portray the EU as simultaneously weak and overly interfering. It creates this double bind designed to sow doubt and confusion about leadership and policy. It erodes trust in specific figures and, by extension, the systems they represent.
And elections obviously are prime targets, especially in a year like 2024.
Absolutely. With over half the world's voting population going to polls, democratic institutions, especially elections, were major FIMI targets. We saw it acutely in the 2024 European elections. 42 Russian FIMI cases peaked right before the vote.
A clear attempt to sway opinion.
Undoubtedly. And the pattern repeated: Taiwan presidential elections, U.S. presidential elections, Moldovan elections, French legislative elections, a global coordinated effort to undermine democratic integrity.
And these aren't just last-minute things, are they?
Not at all. That's crucial to understand. These election ops are multi-phase. They start way before polling day.
How?
First, setting up the infrastructure of fake accounts, websites, networks. Then, sustained attacks on the democratic process itself, questioning its legitimacy or fairness.
Then maybe cyber attacks.
Often, yes. A surge in cyber-enabled interference hacking. Data leaks timed for maximum disruption. Activity peaks just before the vote to hit undecideds.
And it doesn't start after the election.
No. Sustained efforts continue post-election to undermine trust in the results, whatever the outcome. This continuous multi-phase pressure means we need constant preparedness, proactive measures, not just reacting when the election's already happening. It's a marathon, definitely not a sprint.
So, okay, how are these sophisticated campaigns actually pulled off? What's in their digital toolkit?
Well, the ES report is very clear. Social media platforms are still the most cost-effective tool for these actors.
Which ones stand up?
X, formerly Twitter, accounted for a staggering 88% of detected activity.
88%. Why so high?
Largely due to the ease of creating coordinated inauthentic behavior CIB accounts, basically networks of fake accounts, and how easily the platform's algorithms can be manipulated to amplify content.
And websites. You mentioned those earlier.
Yes,
Yeah.
dedicated websites are crucial, especially for those elaborate impersonation campaigns, like Doppelganger, which mimics legitimate European news outlets, or False Facade, which creates whole ecosystems of fake sites.
And they cross-post content.
Strategically, yes. Across multiple platforms, choosing based on where the target audience hangs out. For instance, lots of FIMI targeting African countries uses Facebook heavily because that's where the audience is. It's very researched, very tailored.
Let's dig into the specific tactics, the TTPs, tactics, techniques, procedures. This is where the algorithmic part really kicks in, right?
Absolutely. One really significant tactic is content localization.
Making it feel local.
Exactly. The report noted at least 349 incidents use this. Messages are carefully tailored with local cultural references, specific events, the exact language, or even dialect.
Why is that so effective?
It enhances credibility immensely. Imagine getting a news story that perfectly hits your local interests, maybe mentions local landmarks or uses local slang, but it's totally fabricated. It creates this uncanny sense of familiarity.
Well, it feels trustworthy, like it came from your own community.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It exploits our natural bias to trust what feels close to home.
Okay, what else? Bots.
Bot networks and coordinated inauthentic behavior, CIB. These are classic pervasive techniques, and we're not talking a few rogue accounts. These are often algorithmically engineered networks.
How many?
The report found nearly 73% of detected channels were disposable CIB accounts. That's 28,000 out of 38,000 unique channels investigated.
28,000 fake accounts.
Wow. Their transient nature makes them hard to trace, but they form the core infrastructure for rapidly amplifying FIMI content and dodging platform security. They basically trick the algorithms by faking engagement, likes, shares, comments. They game the platform's metrics to push manipulated content to way more people than it would ever reach organically. They weaponize the platform's own design.
Okay, and then there's impersonation.
Yes, this one directly erodes trust in legitimate sources by creating very deceptive fakes.
Like fake news sites?
Exactly. Setting up inauthentic news sites that look remarkably like established, trusted outlets, 124 incidents recorded like that, or outright impersonating entities, 127 occurrences. Think a fake government site, a fake charity page.
It's easy to see how you could share something from a site like that without realizing.
Very easy.
Right.
And that undermines the whole public discourse. They even impersonated political figures or celebrities in 13 cases.
Why?
Either to smear them with fake controversies or just leverage their popularity to amplify other content. It makes it incredibly hard for the public to know what's real.
And this is where AI comes in, making things even harder.
This is really where the algorithmic part accelerates into a new era, the AI factor. The EERAS report noted 41 cases where AI was explicitly used to manipulate info. That's a significant and, frankly, alarming trend.
How does AI help them?
It makes content creation and large-scale automated dissemination through bots much easier, faster, and cheaper. We're talking sophisticated deepfake audio, deepfake video. Increasingly hard to spot.
And the number analytics report confirms this.
It does. It highlights AI and machine learning for analyzing vast data to find vulnerabilities in audiences, automating exploit processes, creating highly convincing personalized phishing attacks using natural language processing.
Which raises a scary question.
Exactly. How quickly can automated systems respond and adapt without human intervention? The speed these narratives can propagate and change becomes terrifyingly efficient. It can lead to rapid, unpredictable escalations that humans just can't keep pace with. It's like a race against autonomous deception.
And it's not just about content, right? The number analytics report mentioned other threats.
Yes, advanced persistent threats, APTs, and zero-day exploits. These aren't about changing minds. They're about direct digital sabotage.
What are APTs?
Sophisticated, targeted attacks, often state-sponsored. They can hide inside a network for ages, gathering intel or prepping for disruption.
In 0 days.
They exploit previously unknown software or hardware flaws, meaning there's no patch, no defense ready. So while FIMI manipulates what we think, these tactics can directly hit critical infrastructure, government networks.
Causing real-world damage?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Service disruptions, data breaches. It's a terrifying dual threat hitting perception and physical systems.
So when you talk about these threats, two main actors come up again and again in the EES report: Russia and China. Let's start with Russia. Their approach seems deeply rooted in this idea of information confrontation.
Yes, absolutely. Russia fundamentally views the information space as an explicit warfighting domain, just like land, air, or sea. Their information confrontation doctrine is central to their whole security strategy.
So information is a weapon and the battlefield itself.
Precisely. Their strategy is long-term. They use overt state structures and covert non-state entities to systematically shape global narratives. They build these false facades, fabricated media fronts to hide information laundering and impersonate legitimate media, basically hijacking their credibility.
And what narratives are they pushing? What's the goal?
They're very targeted, systematically undermining support for Ukraine, trying to weaken sanctions against Russia, often by exaggerating costs or futility of Western aid.
Stirring up trouble internally in other countries.
Yes, stirring nationalist, anti-immigrant sentiments, exploiting existing societal fault lines, exaggerating economic problems, fueling cultural tensions like around LGBTQ+ rights, painting Western values as decadent or threatening, and constantly questioning the competence and reliability of Western defense systems, alliances like NATO.
It sounds like a deliberate effort to destabilize from within.
It is, and weaken international coalitions against them.
And they back this up with serious resources.
Massive control, funding, and amplification. Independent Russian media, silenced or forced out. Meanwhile, state outlets like RT and Sputnik get staggering funding.
How much?
Well, for 2025, the plan was reportedly at least 137.2 billion rubles for state outlets. That's a huge investment. RT has expanded aggressively, RT Balkans. Sputnik opened an office in Indonesia, extending their global reach.
And they use diplomats, too.
Seamlessly. Diplomatic action integrated with FODI, Russian officials, embassy accounts openly amplifying disinformation from RT, Sputnik, and, maybe most audaciously, they launched their own fake fact-checking initiatives.
Fake fact-checking, to what end?
To sow more confusion, legitimize their narratives, and discredit genuine efforts to combat disinformation. It's incredibly cynical.
Okay, let's shift to China. Their approach seems different, multifaceted.
Yes. Equally sophisticated but distinctly multifaceted. They use a diverse range of FIMI TTPs to advance their interests and, crucially, to suppress critical voices worldwide.
What are their key targets?
The EEC's report highlights ops targeting Taiwanese presidential elections, obviously critical for Beijing. Also, to a lesser extent, the U.S. presidential elections.
Right.
And the evolving, highly contentious situation in the South China Sea, all areas of huge strategic importance.
And they're expanding their state media, too.
Definitely. CGTN, Global Times, they keep growing their footprint, fostering stronger media links, especially in Africa, Latin America, where they want more influence. But what's really interesting, maybe a hallmark of their newer strategy, is this increased reliance on private PR companies and influencers, these influence-for-hire operations.
So outsourcing the manipulation.
In a way, these firms are covertly hired to create, amplify, and subtly launder content aligned with China's interests, making it look organic or independent.
Can you name any examples?
Sure, campaigns like Paperwall and Hanergy, they use extensive networks of inauthentic websites disguised as local news outlets. Sometimes these PR firms openly advertise partnerships with state media. Other times, the links are only uncovered through technical analysis, shared IPs, analytics codes, that sort of thing.
And the goal of these fake news networks?
It seems to be about influencing search results on specific topics during crises. It creates plausible deniability for Beijing while seamlessly integrating Chinese narratives into public discourse across dozens, even hundreds, of seemingly independent sites.
And China also focuses on information suppression.
Yes, that's a really concerning, often overlooked part. They use a wide range of coercive measures.
Like what?
Everything from economic incentives, visa restrictions for journalists or academics, to online harassment campaigns, legal warfare, so-called lawfare, and even detentions, particularly targeting diaspora communities critical of Beijing.
So FIMI works hand in hand with other threats: cyber, legal, economic.
Exactly. It's a comprehensive approach to controlling the narrative. Their own narratives focus heavily on defending China's image human rights in Xinjiang, Tibet, Hong Kong, Taiwan, projecting China's positive global role.
And attacking the West.
Often paired with offensive narratives portraying the West as hypocritical, in decline, inefficient, trying to undermine its moral authority.
And do Russia and China coordinate?
It seems largely opportunistic rather than systematically coordinated from the top down. But there's definitely strategic alignment. Their state media, RT, Sputnik, CGTN, Global Times, frequently cross-amplify each other's content.
Reinforcing shared messages.
Yes, especially anti-Western messages. Blaming NATO for conflicts like Ukraine, accusing the West of destabilizing things. This mutual amplification gives their combined narratives broader reach, creating a more powerful, if not fully unified front. It magnifies their influence.
Okay, given this scale, this complexity, how do we even begin to understand and track it all? You mentioned the EAS report has a new tool.
Yes, the FIMI Exposure Matrix. It's a novel analytical tool designed specifically for this to systematically classify channels based on their level of connection to a threat actor.
Which is crucial for mapping this hidden architecture.
Absolutely. It helps reveal the complex, multi-layered structure these regimes use. It clarifies the interplay between overt and covert channels. It's like mapping that iceberg we talked about, where most of the operation is hidden underwater.
Right, the FIMI iceberg analogy. So let's walk through the 4 blocks of this architecture from top to bottom. What's at the very top, the visible tip?
That's the official state channels, directly run by governments, their representatives, openly reflecting the state's official voice. Think government ministry accounts, diplomatic missions, MFA spokespeople on social media, no hiding the affiliation there.
Okay, clear enough. What's next down?
State-controlled outlets. These are media organizations, often branded as news, but they're funded, managed, and editorially controlled by state bodies. Think RT, Sputnik, CGTN.
So they look like media, but they're state propaganda arms.
Essentially, yes. Their ties to the state are generally transparent. They often say they're state-funded. But the media label can obscure their true function. They're designed to look and feel legitimate.
Now we get into the hidden parts.
Exactly. The third category, state-linked channels. These operate under state oversight, but crucially without publicly disclosing that link.
So uncovering the connection takes work.
Meticulous work. Evidence of hidden influence patterns Indirect control. Think channels secretly run by intelligence services or those big covert ops like Portal Combat, False Facade. This is where lines blur, attribution gets really tough because they actively try to hide their identity, look independent.
Often mimicking local news to gain trust.
Right. And then the largest, deepest part of the iceberg.
What's that?
State-aligned channels. These can't be directly attributed to state control or funding, at least not initially. They remain unattributed until more solid evidence emerges. But they show systematic, undeniable signs of alignment with the state's narratives and goals.
So they act independently but push the state line.
Pretty much. Their involvement isn't coincidental. They're deeply embedded key enablers, often amplifying content from higher up the iceberg, creating that echo chamber effect.
And they're hard to counter.
Extremely. Because that lack of direct, provable links makes blocking or sanctioning them far more complex. They're the toughest to detect and disrupt effectively.
But how do investigators prove these connections, especially for the covert and unattributed ones? It can't just be they sound similar.
No, definitely not. Attribution requires meticulous evaluation of concrete evidence. The FIMI exposure matrix relies on two main types of indicators. First, technical indicators.
Like digital forensics.
Exactly. Dissecting the digital infrastructure. Forensic analysis of shared IP addresses, common hosting services, tracing domain ownership, metadata analysis, shared ad networks, even following crypto wallets used for payments.
Looking for patterns.
Yes, matching account creative patterns across platforms, identifying use of the same code or website templates. These are the digital breadcrumbs operators leave behind.
Okay, technical breadcrumbs. What's the other type?
Behavioral indicators. These are the observable activity patterns, the coordinated behaviors that reveal manipulation.
Such as?
Systematic interaction and amplification.
Yeah.
Multiple accounts repeatedly liking, sharing, commenting to boost content. Persistent backlinking, many sites linking to the same obscure source. Automated republishing, content mirroring across networks of seemingly separate sites.
Information laundering.
That's a key one. A narrative starts on a covert channel, then gets picked up and re-reported by seemingly independent ones. Also coordinated messaging linguistic patterns, synchronized publication times, agenda setting, recurrent hashtags, consistent branding, even systematic use of AI tools leaves patterns.
And where does the data come from?
It's combined. Open source data gives valuable behavioral insights. Proprietary data from platforms offers deeper technical info, though with commercial legal limits. And classified intelligence, the most comprehensive but restricted. The best assessments blend all three. It's a complex puzzle.
So what's the payoff for all this classification work? What does the matrix actually achieve?
Well, it's not just academic. It allows for much more accurate attribution. That's crucial for accountability. And critically, it enables more targeted, effective responses from the EU's FIMI toolbox.
How does it help target responses?
By identifying key players, the hotspots, in the FIMI architecture. It provides early indicators for focused monitoring, anticipatory analysis, so policymakers can make informed, data-driven decisions, establish proactive systems, move beyond just reacting after the damage is done.
And we've seen real consequences, like sanctions.
Yes. The EU imposed sanctions in December 2024, specifically for FIMI behavior. That was possible because strong attribution could be made using this kind of framework. It turns intelligence into actionable policy that can actually disrupt these malicious operations.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Let's look at algorithmic narrative warfare in action with some real-world examples. First up, Moldova. Russia's FIMI operations there.
Yes, Moldova became a really opportunistic battleground, especially during its October-November 2024 presidential elections and that crucial EU membership referendum.
What was Russia's strategy?
They strategically combined existing FIMI infrastructure, like channels previously focused on Ukraine, such as Ukrainaru, with newly developed assets. Their influence efforts became much more visible, more aggressive. Official Russian channels, state media, really ramped up their presence.
And the goal?
Clearly twofold. Undermine Moldova's democratic processes and sabotage its EU ambitions. They did this by portraying EU integration as a direct threat to sovereignty, economy, cultural identity.
And they reused old tactics.
Insidiously, yes. They recycled past narratives, themes used against Ukraine, like those baseless, grotesque allegations of organ trafficking, and redirected them specifically at Moldovan President Maia Sandu.
And this is where AI came in.
Frighteningly so. They use AI-generated deepfakes, mimicking Sandu's voice to spread fake messages. They produce fabricated documents designed to look official.
And they even paid people.
Yes, offered financial incentives via Telegram chatbots. directly paying individuals to distribute anti-EU, anti-government content, turning citizens into agents of disinformation, maybe unwittingly, maybe not.
And new fake media popped up.
Rapidly,
Mm.
like Portal Combat Moldova, mirroring global Pravda flooding techniques, linked directly to Sputnik Moldova, and Moldova 24, a network of 14 websites, potentially tied to RT, which Moldovan authorities eventually identified and blocked. It's a constant cat-and-mouse game.
So what does the Moldova case really show us?
It illustrates vividly how geopolitical events aren't just used for short-term election meddling. They're used to cement long-term interference strategies, to expand digital infrastructure beyond one event. It's a testing ground, refining KTPs, identifying vulnerabilities. The investment in new infrastructure shows a long-term commitment to destabilizing the region.
Okay, shifting continents now. The Russian FIMI machine in Africa. That sounds like another major operation.
It is. After RT and Sputnik got suspended in the EU in 2022, Russia significantly expanded operations in Africa. We saw the quick launch of Sputnik Afric, aggressive buying of African online domains. It reflects a long-term, multi-layered strategy to position Russia as a key counterpower to the West there.
And Prigozhin's death changed things. The Wagner influence ops.
Yes, a significant shift. Wagner's extensive influence operations were largely taken over, centralized by Russian state actors. Notably, through this new entity, the African Initiative, which the EU has sanctioned.
What does the African Initiative do?
It acts as this critical bridge between Russia's core FIMI infrastructure and local African networks. It presents itself deceptively as an independent press agency, but it's run by individuals with deep links to Russian intelligence, a classic state-linked channel trying to look independent.
And they use this clever tactic bi-directional information laundering.
Yes, it's very effective. It lets them amplify narratives both from Russia into Africa and from Africa back to a global audience,
Right.
giving local grievances a false global legitimacy.
How does that work exactly?
Well, covert FIMI ops in Africa tailor content from central Russian outlets like Sputnik Afric for specific local audiences, making it culturally relevant. But conversely, the African Initiative channels also generate content maybe based on local events or sentiments that then feeds back into Russian state-controlled international media.
Recycling local narratives for global use.
Exactly. Legitimizing them on a global scale. It's a two-way street of deception, creating this self-reinforcing echo chamber. Local content goes global. Global narratives get localized.
And what kind of narratives are they pushing in Africa?
Pretty consistent themes. Portraying the West, especially France, the U.S., Ukraine as neo-colonial powers, exploiting African economies, perpetuating instability, while Russia presents itself as the reliable ally, the counterterrorism partner, offering support without the perceived strings of Western aid.
Weaponizing social issues, too.
Yes, things like LGBTIQ+ rights, framed as Western impositions, framing Ukraine as neo-Nazi, actively discrediting Western media as biased. And it's not just online.
Offline activities, too.
Yes, the African Initiative engages in offline stuff, organizing demonstrations, journalist training programs, further reinforcing Russia's strategic position on the ground, fostering pro-Russian sentiment directly.
Okay, finally, let's look at these Chinese influence for hire operations. That sounds like a different model again.
It is, and it's fascinating, often very covert. It shows how Chinese state-controlled and state-aligned actors exploit private PR companies, intermediaries, to covertly spread state-sponsored content, often making it look like organic news.
Using private companies to do the dirty work.
Essentially. Companies like Shanghai Haixin Technology behind the High Energy Campaign and Shenzhen Haimayunsang Media operating the Paperwall network, they manage these huge networks of inauthentic websites.
Oh, huge.
The scale is breathtaking. High Energy linked to at least 316 websites. Paperwall, 123. The Volume News VN network, which often aligns with Chinese interests, had 142 websites. These sites are designed to look like local news or generic portals covering all sorts of topics. It creates an illusion of independent reporting, a vast network for laundering information.
And how do they operate these fake sites?
Subtly, but effectively. They develop localized branding, regional names, images. They cover benign topics, sports, fashion to build initial trust. But then, strategically, they republish content directly from Chinese state media like Global Times or Xinhua.
Sometimes citing the source, sometimes not.
Exactly. Often not, making it look like original reporting. The main strategic goal seems to be influencing search engine results for specific topics during crises, pushing down critical info, elevating Beijing's preferred narratives.
Creating plausible deniability.
Precisely. While seamlessly integrating Chinese FIMI narratives into public discourse. The scale and coordination, detectable through those technical indicators shared IPs, Analytics codes across seemingly unrelated sites clearly show a systematic, long-term effort to manipulate the information environment algorithmically and distort global perceptions.
It's crucial to remember, isn't it, that these aren't just isolated incidents. They're part of this industrialized strategy.
Absolutely. Aiming to subtly shape global perception and behavior through the digital pathways we all rely on daily, exploiting the trust we place in search engines, social media, making us, in a way, complicit in our own manipulation.
So, given all this, the sophistication, the scale, the covert nature, what does it all mean for policymakers? What can actually be done?
Well, the EES report is emphatic. FIMI isn't just a nuisance or a PR problem. It's a fundamental security threat. And it requires a, quote, comprehensive and whole-of-society response. There's no single magic bullet.
So what's in the toolbox? What is the EU doing, for example?
They've developed this FIMI toolbox. It's multi-pronged, focuses on increasing public awareness, media literacy, helping citizens spot manipulation, pursuing diplomatic action, engaging states and platforms directly, and taking regulatory steps.
Well, like the Digital Services Act.
Exactly. That aims to boost platform transparency and accountability, making tech giants take more responsibility for combating disinformation. And the FIMI exposure matrix we talked about is critical here.
How so?
It enhances monitoring, enables more targeted responses by classifying channels based on their role and connection to threat actors. It lets policymakers make informed decisions, set up proactive systems, move beyond just reacting. And as we said, it can lead to real consequences like sanctions when attribution is strong.
And the Number Analytics report added more on countermeasures.
Yes, it stressed the urgent need for proactive, adaptive approaches. Continuous threat intelligence gathering, analysis constantly updating the picture, using cutting-edge AI-powered security tools to detect new manipulation techniques, enhancing situational awareness through real-time info sharing, collaboration between agencies.
Predicting threats, not just reacting.
Right. They mentioned advanced frameworks like Bayesian inference for threat prediction, trying to figure out where the next attack might come from by constantly updating probabilities based on new intel. Getting ahead of the curve.
And protecting critical infrastructure is obviously key.
Paramount. Our reliance on digital systems makes power grids, transport, healthcare, finance highly vulnerable. So policymakers need a relentless focus on robust cybersecurity, risk assessments, vulnerability management, incident response planning, and rapid trusted intelligence sharing is vital to mitigate potentially devastating consequences. It's about building resilience across the whole digital ecosystem.
But despite all these efforts, the puzzle isn't finished, is it?
Far from it. The EES report notes that covert networks, those non-attributed channels, still make up a huge majority, 76.5% of the investigated FIMI architecture.
3/4.
Yeah. So while the exposure matrix is vital, fully completing the FIMI puzzle, as the report says, will require integrating FIMI analysis with other sources of intelligence, such as cyber threat intelligence.
So deeper collaboration is needed across intelligence domains.
Absolutely. Cyber, human intelligence, open source, they all need to work together much more seamlessly to truly map and counter this constantly evolving threat. We're still only seeing the tip of this digital iceberg, really.
So we've taken a pretty deep dive today into this complex, often hidden world of algorithmic narrative warfare. We've seen how information itself is weaponized, how algorithms get exploited, how strategic narratives are crafted, laundered to influence us all on a global scale. You've seen the sheer scope of FIMI, the sophisticated tactics from actors like Russia and China, and the profound impact these ops have on everything from elections to international stability, even just our daily understanding of events.
Yeah. What really stands out to me, I think, is just how seamlessly these narratives can blend into our everyday information feeds, often without us even noticing. The line between what's real and what's deliberately constructed, it feels increasingly blurry, like a hall of mirrors where every reflection might be a distortion.
It does. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it raises this incredibly important, urgent question for all of us, really.
Which is?
In a world where information is a primary weapon, where narratives are designed to bypass logic and hit our emotions, how do we, as individuals, as societies, cultivate the critical thinking, the digital literacy needed to tell truth from manipulation?
How do we build resilience?
Exactly. How can we proactively help strengthen our information environment against these threats? Threats that are constantly evolving, getting more covert, often literally invisible to the naked eye.
It's not just a job for governments or tech companies then. Not at all. It's really a fundamental call to action for each of us to become more vigilant consumers of information, to question what we see, trace the origins of stories, and try to understand the complex, hidden narratives trying to shape our world.
If you enjoyed this fact check discussion, be sure to like and subscribe to Hack Gear for more.